A large movement of military equipment of the occupiers through Mariupol was recorded. Military equipment was transferred along the Rostov-Novozovsk-Mariupol-Pologovsky line. Petr Andriushenko, ex-councillor of the mayor of Mariupol, shared this news on his social network page. In total, according to him, 7 platforms with armored vehicles were transferred, on which tanks were also spotted. He also counted about 40 trucks with enemy manpower and ammunition. Another column moved out from the Crimea. Along the Mariupol-Novozovsk-Taganrog/Rostov line. There were 20 trucks with manpower and about 5 tractors with armored vehicles of the BIP/BMD type. Andriushenko does not rule out that the enemy will attempt to carry out assault operations in the Orakovo and Guliapol area in the near future. And after recent drone attacks on enemy logistics, the occupiers have stepped up road checks. The most thorough inspection is in the Melitopol area at the fork in the direction of Crimea and in the Primorsk area in the direction of Berdyansk. At the same time, counterpartisan activities are being carried out throughout the Mariupol region. Earlier, media reported that the Kremlin is throwing a lot of infantry into battle in Donbass in order to break through the defense of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. According to the source, the picture around the settlements of Alekseyevka and Bogatyr is still unclear. At the same time, the enemy is pressing in the area of Komar, Zvezda, and on a large section of Shevchenko, Svobodnoe Pole, Novosyolka. Analysts complain that commanders on the ground are sending false reports to their superiors. They are reporting on holding positions that are already practically overrun by the enemy. Experts said the next map update on this section of the front would be disappointing. Moreover, the day before it was announced that the Ukrainian Armed Forces had stopped the advance of the enemy army in the Sumy region. Experts say that in the summer the enemy will pay special attention to Donbass in order to reach the borders of Luhansk and Donetsk regions. Fighters of the Primar Special Forces unit of the main intelligence directorate under the Ukrainian Defense Ministry have intercepted and struck the S-400 Triumph air defense system of the occupying Russian army worth $600 million as well as radar stations in Crimea Peninsula. Fighters of the unit used kamikaze drones to destroy the S-400 complex's firing device, 2 multifunctional 92N2E radar stations, and 2 91N6E detection radars. It should be noted that the S-400 complex, whose firing device and radar stations are rendered unusable, lost the ability to continue the operation. Prisoners of war were welcomed back in Ukraine as part of a swap with Russia and were greeted by waiting relatives. According to Associated Press, amid the hostilities, the two sides have continued swaps of prisoners of war agreed on during recent talks between their delegations in Istanbul. Russia's defense ministry and Ukrainian authorities said another exchange took place on Thursday. Ukraine's coordination headquarters for POWs said the swap included injured soldiers and those with health conditions. The youngest is 24 and the oldest is 62, it said, adding that more exchanges are expected soon. Earlier in the day, Russia's defense ministry confirmed Thursday that a group of prisoners of war had been returned under an agreement laid out by Russian and Ukrainian negotiators in Istanbul.
Russia is navigating one of the most turbulent chapters in the history of humanity, according to Sergei Chemezov, head of the state-run defense and industrial conglomerate Rostec, as the country struggles under the weight of war, sanctions and economic isolation. Chemezov painted a bleak picture of Russia's current state, likening it to a storm without a visible horizon in a column published by the Russian media outlet RBC. Being an optimistic in such conditions is difficult, he wrote. This storm must be passed through with confidence and a clear understanding of direction. We simply must emerge from it as victors. Chemezov, a longtime Putin ally and one of Russia's most influential industrial figures, argued that the country should abandon any illusions of catching up with Western technologies built over decades and backed by trillions in investment. Instead, he urged a pivot toward disruptive innovation. Russia should focus on artificial intelligence, quantum technologies, and the development of a high-tech industry, he wrote, adding that these sectors offer the potential to build entirely new industries and escape the trap of playing technological catch-up. At the heart of Chemezov's vision lies the idea of technological sovereignty and aggressive import substitution. However, he warned that these goals will remain out of reach unless the Russian government directly intervenes to provide cheap, long-term financing for R&D and industrial modernization. It won't be possible if the government doesn't provide long-term, low-interest financing to invest in the development of new technologies and products, he stated. Chemezov noted that high interest rates are currently preventing Rostec's enterprises from investing in science, modernization, and production growth. He emphasized that unless this changes, Russia's domestic innovation push will stall. Rostec recently adopted a long-term strategic roadmap through 2036, which Chemezov described as ambitious. The strategy calls for expanding the company's product lineup and increasing its presence in both global defense and civilian markets. To remain viable over the next 15 years, Chemezov argued Russia must prioritize domestic production in high-tech sectors, invest heavily in basic and applied sciences, and develop a new generation of highly skilled engineers and researchers. But Chemezov also warned that economic and technological ambitions must be backed by a strong ideological foundation. He called on the Kremlin and Russia's industrial elite to instill national values such as patriotism, solidarity, justice, and service into everyday life. It is important not only to speak about our values, but to root them in the public consciousness and everyday life, showing young people how to act by our own behavior, he concluded.